Here we go. Hello, Money Empire women. Welcome. Wilda's joining us today, and we are hosting Stephanie Rizzuto, mortgage broker. She is amazing at what she does. She leads with education, which is so important to me, so important to all the women in our community. She's helped a lot of our women too, clients, club members, women in this program. She's spoken with half of the women here within this program alone. So we wanted to bring you on because obviously so many people are working with you. Now is a great time to be thinking about refinancing or buying a place because the interest rates are so low. And they'll probably be low for a little bit going forward. They are creeping up a little bit. So Stephanie, we're going to have kind of a conversation about first-time home buying, maybe having real estate as an investment opportunity to down the road. So why don't we get started with how do we best prepare when you're thinking about buying a first-time home? We'll start there in the beginning. You're buying your first home.
I always tell everyone, when you want to start thinking about home ownership as a first-time home buyer, or even somebody who's moving up to their second or third home, you want to obviously have your finances in order. You want to know what your comfort level is with the mortgage payment, what you're going to be willing to take on, and also account everything else that you have to take on with home ownership, because it's not just the mortgage payment, the real estate taxes, and the home insurance. It's the utilities in the home. It's the lawn maintenance. And if it's not lawn or snow maintenance, removal, then it's an association fee if you're living townhome or condo. So you have to take all of those extra monthly bills into consideration. How big is the home? Is it gas heat? Is it an electric heat? Is there, how much in the summertime? How do you think it's going? What do you think it's going to cost to air your house? Cool your house with air conditioning. All those things you have to take into consideration. So I know for myself, when I'm looking at homes, if I see a home is natural gas, I know that the bills are going to be not as high as if the home is electric or propane. Those are just facts. So you have to think about those things. And you have to just think maintaining the home in general. You always want to have a cushion of money set aside for house emergencies. So when you're buying a home, you don't want to liquidate everything you have to your name. And then all of a sudden, 6 months down the road, you need a new HVAC system, or you need a new roof, or something like that happens. And if you have liquidated everything in order to get yourself into the home, what are you going to end up doing? You're going to end up going into credit card debt, which is not good.
That's a big question both of us get. And I know especially when my clients come to me first, and then I always bring you in on the conversation, is how much of my savings and investments should I use for that down deposit? And so I think a lot of variables come into that, don't it?
Relative to what your earnings are, what you're comfortable with. I would personally say, if it was me advising somebody, I'd say I would want to leave at least half in there.
A good ballpark number to start with.
And leave it there as a cushion. That's just what I would probably say to somebody. I wouldn't be writing a check for closing with every last cent that's in your bank account.
No. And thinking about probably also, is it just you buying the house? Do you have two incomes going into the mortgage? Do you have a lot of growth potential in your income? Or are you going to be locked in on that salary for the next few years too? So looking out, because I'm just thinking of good friends of ours, they kind of stretch themselves to get the house, and then they want to get pregnant right away. So they had to find ways, both teachers had to earn extra money to then budget in daycare. Yes. And had a second kid, now more daycare costs, figuring out how can they lower their expenses, and now they're really pinching pennies to stretch. So thinking about what's the future holds for your income, but also your expenses on that side of it.
Totally. And then also the payment each month too. So, I'll say really quickly, I just got off the phone with somebody. She's living in Jersey City, doesn't want to live out there anymore. She's paying $3,000 or just under $3,100 in rent. A house that she's interested in is going to give her a payment of $2,500. So she said to me, well, what would be my purchase price if I wanted to stretch myself to a $3,000 mortgage payment, which is what I'm paying right now in rent? And it was basically the same thing, is that's what you're paying in rent. But if you're not responsible for anything in your apartment, once you own a home and you have a $3,000 mortgage payment, now you're going to be responsible for the yard, snow removal, if anything breaks in the house, anything needs to be updated, where you don't have that worry right now. So we probably shouldn't stretch yourself to what you're paying in rent, because it's going to cost you more for home ownership as it is renting your apartment.
And taxes, property taxes.
I mean, it's not a secret anymore. We all know in the state of New Jersey what it's going to cost these schools to keep their social distancing, hire more bus drivers, more buses, more staff for the school to be cleaning, more products. Who's going to pay for all of this stuff?
Yeah.
We are.
Right.
So we have to think about that too. If you're looking at something, just think, if this is the top number that you can go to, you might want to reconsider lowering that budget, because taxes always go up. So you know your mortgage payment is going to increase, whether it's $20 a month or $200 a month. At some point, it's going to increase.
So it's kind of, I know it's a hard way to begin looking. It's like, do you start with what you're currently paying in rent and work from there? Do you look at how much you have for a down deposit and look at, oh, well, this will be 10% down deposit or 20% of the house value? Do you look at figuring out what is that price point to begin looking at? I think that's a very hard thing for people. They start looking and they know what they like, they know what they want to buy, but is it realistic? So what would be the good place to start that search, finding that happy price point for them so they're not overstretching, overextending themselves?
The month is where I always start
the monthly payment.
What you're comfortable paying per month.
Mm-hmm.
Then I can figure out, and where are you looking? Because then I can say, okay, you're looking in this town, you're looking in, Chester, New Jersey. We know the taxes, and you want your mortgage payment to be X amount. Then I can kind of figure out, well, principal and interest is going to be this, taxes are going to be this, insurance is going to be this. So I can kind of figure out what the taxes are in the area based on what your mortgage payment's going to be. If you tell me, you want a $5,000 mortgage payment, then you're probably looking at a house that has $35,000 in taxes. If you tell me you want your mortgage payment to be $2,000, we're probably looking at $10,000. So I can kind of figure that out, and then I kind of zero in on a purchase price.
Okay. So they should probably see you before the real estate agent.
Yes, because what happens sometimes is the real estate agent, they'll tell the real estate agent, I want whole list of items that they want in their house, and they go and look at a home, and then they come to me and they say, Stephanie, we really found this house. It's awesome. 123 Main Street. What's the payment? And I tell them the payment, and they're going, ooh, that's too high. Or sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes they can buy more, and they're, looking at something that they can actually buy more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know real estate agents, they do have a tendency to try to push you to that next tax bracket, and not the next, that's for the accountant call, the next price point too. So I think having the realistic, what you can afford versus what you want, the nice things, is a much better way to make sure your expectations are in check, what you're thinking of getting and stuff. All right, good. So start with the budgeting. Start with you before the real estate agent. And I tell people, if you think you can afford more than what you currently are spending, try to save that extra money as if you're spending it, and seeing how you are cash flow wise. I mean, it helps out because you're going to bump up your savings, even up. But also you're going to see how comfortable you are living on less money each month. So if you aren't sure, I have a client and she wants to kick out her roommate. She bought a place. She had somebody paying half of her mortgage, which is a great way to get started if you aren't sure if you can afford it yourself. So I said to her, why don't you try for a few months to see if you could basically feel like you're paying that full mortgage yourself, but you put that $900 away into a savings account, seeing if you can live on less. And she sent me a text, I can do it. I just had the conversation with my roommate to set the timeline of when she's going to move out and stuff. So if you aren't sure what you can afford, if you think you can afford more, test it out before you make that huge leap. And then you're nervous the entire time. You're stressed over the numbers.
And you know what it is too? It's just getting to know your clients to like, figure out what their plan is within the next 1 year, 2 years, and 5 years. So I always say, especially a first-time home buyer, I say, are you planning on having kids? If they don't have kids, let's just say. Because if they have kids, they already know the expense of child care.
Very true.
So they'll say, yeah, you know, we're planning on having kids once we get our house. That's our next step. So maybe in the next 2 to 3 years. So I always say, you have to understand now you're going to take on more expense. So Jessica, when you said that about childcare, it made me think of that. I always, even though I'm not somebody's mother or wife or husband, I have to tell them, you got to think about these things. I don't ever want somebody to come back to me 2, 3 years from now and say, I cannot pay my mortgage because I'm paying $1,000 or $2,000 a month in childcare and we can't live.
Yeah.
Or I want to refi because I need to, you know, take cash out to pay for something. You know, they shouldn't have never gotten to that position from the start if we had talked about what their plan was in the next 1 to 2 or 5 years.
That's a great point. Yeah, knowing what the future goals are too, going into this, and what are their priorities for a house just in general. Do they want move-in ready? Are they fine with the project? Do they need to have that big kitchen? And what are their things that they're okay not getting? What are the things that I talk about this with divorce planning, right? Know what you want, what you need to have going into it, and what are the things that you're okay letting go or not having or negotiating with. I think that will help too. So, okay, let's just recap, and then we're going to move on to rental real estate.
Yeah, awesome.
So, don't liquidate all your cash. Maybe half of it. Work with those numbers first before you put everything into the house, and then it's not liquid. It's not accessible money for you to use for emergencies, to fix up the house, anything like that. Start with the month-to-month budgeting. What can you afford? What are you comfortable affording, as you said? Talk to you first, then the realtor. Talk with you first, talk with me. We do a lot of these together too, don't we, Stephanie? And thinking about what the future income and expenses, more importantly, your future expenses are going to be before you lock in on a high ticket mortgage, monthly mortgage and stuff. Awesome. We could put a whole clip together for that stuff.
Seriously.
We'll create a checklist for future stuff. Okay. Let's talk about rental real estate. Like there are different ways you can do it, whether I know one of the housing hacks that the FIRE movement talks about, the financial independence, retire early, is you get a duplex, you live in one, you rent out the other place. So you can start there. You can do what my client did and have a roommate pay half your mortgage, but you have to be comfortable with somebody in your space. Not everybody's good with that. Or you already have a place, could you use equity in that home to buy the next place? Can you do it that way? What should people think about as they start to venture into real estate as an investment for them?
So I will say that a lot of successful people who I do speak with, they do have real estate in their investment portfolio. Whether it is a vacation home that they are renting out and using for themselves as well, like a shore property, or it is a 2-family, and like you said, they're living in the one, someone else is living in the other and basically paying their mortgage. Or they live in one home and they have either a single family home as another home or a condo as another home. Obviously real estate has ups and downs, just like the stock market.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, if you get a tenant into a property and that tenant is now paying the mortgage for you, even if you're not profiting on a monthly basis, let's just say you're breaking even,
Mm-hmm.
in the long run, you will be positive because you're going to sell that property X amount of years from now. And that property didn't cost you money each month because your tenant was paying the mortgage for you, basically. But now you just forced yourself into a large lump sum of an investment that you're able to invest and make money off of with you. So let's say I buy a $200,000 investment property let's say it's a condo, and I have a tenant in the property who covers my expenses on my principal, interest, taxes, and insurance each month. Even if I'm not making a profit each month, I am still making a profit each month because I'm building equity in this home.
Yeah.
So obviously we know real estate goes up and down, but for the most part, it does go up. And even when it goes down, you're still ahead of the game because it has gone up.
Mm-hmm.
So in 20, 30 years from now, I decide to sell this place. So let's just say I sell it for exactly what I bought it for. Let's just pretend worst case scenario. Now I just sold something for $200,000, but someone was paying my bills this whole time. So it didn't cost me money. And now I just sold the property for $200,000. Well, let's just say my initial deposit on this place was $40,000. Okay. For 20% down. Now I just profited $160,000. Now the question goes to you. What can you do with $160,000? The answer is probably, I can make you a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So at, let's say, 50, 60 years old, I turn around and I have $160,000 to work with to dump into my retirement portfolio. That's going to make me a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Or a lot of people are buying an investment property when they're younger, let's just say in their 30s, and they're able to say, you know what, I'm going to put some of my money into real estate now, because when I'm ready to retire, I'm going to sell those properties and I'm going to be able to live off of some of that.
Yeah. I think it's understanding what's the purpose behind it. Is it, one that we'd even talk about is a business. Buying a place instead of renting all these years. This is my father. He bought, it's 2 condo offices. So that's part of now the business's equity. So it can build your business. And then when you look to sell your business down the road for retirement, you also have a property to go with it that enhances the business. There's actual brick and mortar location for it. Obviously in this day and age, that might change a little bit, but that's another way people do it to enhance their business and retirement, as you said. So is it to build up retirement funding? Is it to pay off a vacation home that you want to keep down the road? That's my husband and myself. We knew in retirement we were going to have a place on the beach. We bought it now, we rent it out. So by retirement, it will be paid off. And if we rent it out, I think it's like 60% of the time it will pay for itself. And then we get to enjoy vacations now. So in my mind, that was because we can enjoy it now. It's working towards our retirement, it's basically saving for retirement, and we get income from it now. So what's the purpose? And I know from experience, there's a lot of upfront costs. It's almost like building a business when you're getting a rental real estate property, right? You have the down payment, any fixings you want to do to it, any renovations, carrying the cost to get your first tenant or in between tenants. And then take, for example, during the shutdown, I have a few clients, they have places in Florida, Myrtle Beach that they rent out, and they're like, we're not going to get the rental income this year. So knowing there might be times like these where you might have to carry the cost for a period of time. So I'm not saying don't do it, but budget that in. Bank some of that income that comes in for those slower times every year.
Or sometimes a first-time home buyer, they'll buy their first property and then they don't sell that property to buy their next property. They hold on to that property and rent it out.
That's true. That's a good point.
So that's what I have done. I'll speak for myself. So I bought my first condo in 2007. Mm-hmm. It was not the best time to buy real estate.
But we didn't know that hindsight bias.
But it's what it is. And what am I? I'm halfway through the mortgage and I still have the property. And I look at it as I'm going to sell this property one day and I can put that on a down payment on a shore house for my family. Or I can maybe dump it towards their college. But whatever it is, it's going to be money that's mine that I can do something with. Yeah. Whether if I want a vacation home as a down payment or buy a vacation home, or whether I wanted to put it towards the kids' college or whether I want to, just reinvest it into another investment property or reinvest it into the market and put it into retirement. Whatever it is, it's money that I do have. So it's a bucket in your whole portfolio.
Yes.
So I do strongly believe that investment real estate is something to look into.
It's almost like forced savings
It totally is.
too. And even with your own mortgage, with your own house, you forget about that actually is savings. I mean, some of it's going to the interest, but it's forcing you to save some money, build equity in something else besides a retirement account. So it is a good way if maybe you have trouble with the commitment to savings every month, having that set up so that somebody else is helping you save for retirement. It's not coming all from your own salary.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that idea that it is for savings. And there are a lot of opportunities, whether you keep the property or not. I think also being realistic of how much of a hands-on landlord you want to be is good too, because there are management companies who can help you
Yep.
with that stuff. You give up a little bit of the rent, help with marketing, getting you on Airbnb, those different platforms, which are great now. That's definitely helped rental real estate, the different platforms and stuff. So
Those in Myrtle Beach, and for what he's renting them for versus what his total yearly obligation is for the mortgage, he's profiting. And then he's taking that profit and dumping it right back into the principal of the loan. So the loan is decreasing. So he's going to own these properties free and clear.
mm-hmm. Yeah. One last piece I want to talk about as we wrap this up, because we do have a hard stop at 3:30, is a mortgage and retirement. Because there's this big myth that you can't get a mortgage if you don't have an actual salary coming in, which you and I know is not true. So do you
Right.
want to talk about that for a few minutes about how people in retirement, they can still get a mortgage if it makes sense in their plan?
They can still get a mortgage. Social Security is income that can be used to qualify you for a mortgage. A pension is income that can be to qualify you for a mortgage. Depending on what you're receiving as income from investments, as long as there is enough money in your investment account to show that that income can happen and will happen, at least for the next 3 years is the rule. 3 years.
Okay.
That money that you're pulling from investments each year can be used as income as well. So for Social Security, pension, and current investment accounts,
Mm-hmm.
there's enough money to show that the money that you're pulling each year will continue for 3 years.
Okay, 3-year rule. Not that we have anybody in this one, but it is good to know that, one of our goals is to pay off debt before retirement so that you have more fund money. But if you're in a position that you maybe want to have a small mortgage for the tax benefit, or just cash flow wise, you don't want to take all your savings for
Yeah.
property, having a mortgage. So having 3 years of income to help pay for the mortgage. Awesome. All right.
Yeah, I mean, rate's so low. If you think about it, if you're making 7-8%, let's say, return on your investment from accounts, and I could be totally wrong. I'm just making these numbers up, that somebody has invested with you, but you're pulling 3%, let's just say, on a mortgage, plus you're getting tax benefits, you might as well just put the small mortgage on the house.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Yeah. Now is a good time to look because rates are so low. We keep saying it, historically low, but they are historically.
It really is. I've been doing this since 2005. I've never seen this before. I keep telling my husband we need to move.
We're gonna jump on the bandwagon and stuff, but it is so easy to work with you, Stephanie. I mean, we personally just refinanced too, and it made sense for us because we're able to pay off both our house and our condo within probably about 12 years.
Awesome.
Which, like you said, throwing in that extra money, like I said, even if you do refinance, you take that extra savings and throw at least a piece of it back in, and you just accelerate it. You're chunking down your mortgage so much faster and stuff. So those are different ways of, and we talk about this in the Money Empire program, how to pay off that mortgage even faster to build your wealth.
Mm-hmm.
So, Stephanie, I am going to shoot this video out to everybody in the Money Empire program with your contact information, but do you want to say how they can reach out to you here? in addition?
Say that again.
I say, how can they find you?
Oh, well, when you send the email out, you'll have everybody on the email.
Mm-hmm.
Then I will reply. So all my contact info is there. So then you guys will all see my website. You'll have my email, my phone number, and that way you can reach me any of those ways.
Okay. Yeah, I'll include that all in the email too. So hopefully,
I'll paste my signature into the email. All my contact info is there.
oh, that's true. Perfect. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
This is
Thank you.
awesome. Wilza, was this helpful for you?
Very, yes, yes.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Oh, good, good.